So we're going to start off on chapter 12. Let me pull up the textbook. Now, this particular chapter deals with contracts. Now, you definitely will get questions on contracts. We deal with contracts all the time. You have to have an understanding of contract. Now, our sales contract is 13 pages long. That's the sales contract that we use. You're not lawyers, but you do have to have an understanding to make sure your clients understand what the contract's all about. The contracts are written by lawyers. We just basically fill in the blanks. But in your initial sitting with your client, when you get them qualified, finding out what they're looking for a home, I take about 5 minutes to review the contracts and the disclosures, because with the contract and the disclosures, you got about 20 pages of documents that they had to review and sign. A lot of times, you have your clients, no. I'm not going to sign anything, not unless my lawyer reads all this stuff. Last time I signed something without reading it, I spent a year in Vietnam, and I'm not going to do that again. So you just got to have a good understanding to put them at ease. So on the very first paragraph, you got to highlight, put an X by. A contract is a voluntary agreement between legally competent parties supported by legal consideration to perform or refrain from performing some legal act. Now, what makes up a contract? Well, there are those 5 bullets. You can highlight, put X's by all 5 bullets. A contract must be voluntary. No one can be forced into a contract. The second bullet is it's an agreement or a promise that's a legally enforceable promise. The next bullet, it must be made by legally competent parties. They must have the capacity to enter into a contract. I'm going to get into details about all of these shortly in this chapter. It must be supported by legal consideration, something of value, and it must be for some legal act, some legal purpose. Now, we skip down a couple paragraphs where it says express and implied contracts. I'd like you to highlight, put an X by these 2 bullets here. Now, an express contract is a contract that's created by, that's a formal agreement that's either written or spoken. So an express contract is generally written. Well, in real estate, it has to be in writing, but it's either written or spoken. It's a formal agreement. Now, on the next bullet here, implied contract is a contract that's created by your actions or conduct. Nothing written, nothing spoken between the parties. An example, let me give you an example of an implied contract. This has nothing to do with real estate, but let's say you walk into a restaurant. You walk into a restaurant, you pick up the menu, and the server comes up to you, and you take your finger and you point to something on a menu. He or she's gonna bring whatever you pointed to. Now, I don't care if you eat it or not. You just created a contract just by picking up the menu and pointing to it. It's implied by your actions or conduct. Nothing written, nothing spoken between the parties. That's an implied contract. Now, enforceable contracts. This says enforceable in court. Only written contracts can be enforced in court. Now, under Illinois statute of frauds, you will see that on a state exam. Statute of frauds are state laws to prevent any type of fraud. In real estate, contracts must be in writing to be enforceable. Verbal means nothing in real estate, means absolutely nothing. If I said to any of you out there, I will give you $1 million for your home, you got over 20 witnesses right now. It doesn't mean anything. Verbal means absolutely nothing. It has to be in writing. At least in real estate, it has to be in writing. Otherwise, it's not enforceable. Let's go on to, we have a case study here. So let me read this case study. Okay, broker Danette has a listing in a very demanding area and price to sell. In a few days, that the property's been on the market, she had several showings and now has several offers. The net has set a deadline for all the offers to be sent to her by 5 p.m. today. An agent from another office has a client that has a verbal cash offer for $25,000 above the listed price, but the offer will not be ready until 6 p.m. tonight. What should the net do? The choices are, how come there's only 3 choices? Okay. The net should present the written offers that came in by 5 p.m. to the seller. The net should wait just 1 more hour for the cash offer. The net should let the seller know about the cash offer and proceed to present the written offers now. So what do you think might be the answer? There should be a D there. And I'm trying to think what I would put down for a D. D answer will be, and they left this out for some reason, the net should confer with the seller and see if the seller wants to proceed with presenting the offers at 5 o'clock or wait until 6 o'clock. There's another answer, D. The net should wait, should talk to the seller and ask the seller if they want to proceed with the offers at 5 p.m. or wait until 6 p.m. to see if the other offer comes in. And yeah, the answer will be D. I don't know why it's missing in there. I'll make sure that's corrected. But remember, we have to follow the directions of our client. We have to do whatever they tell us to do. You know, one thing, so D will be the correct answer, which isn't there. And I'll mention it again. Danette should talk to her seller, and the seller should ask the seller what to do. Should they proceed with the offers at 5 p.m. or wait another hour and see if the other offer comes in? Verbal means nothing anyway, so that would be the better answer, and it's missing there, so I don't know why it's done that, but I just want you to do. If D wasn't the answer, most of you picked out C. And that's the C is a good answer since D is not there. C would have been good. We'll correct this thing in the next edition. Here's a problem that I have every single week, a couple times a week this happens. One of my agents writes up an offer to present to the owner and calls up the agent. We have an offer. I'm sending the offer now. They might ask what the offer is. My agent tells them, well, they're not going to accept the offer. That's what the other agent says. Well, here's the thing. I call up the agent and says, excuse me, do you own any part of this property? No, I don't. Then you got to present the offer. Yeah, but they're not going to accept it. Listen, unless you own this property, you have to present any and all offers. Otherwise, you could lose your license and your sponsoring broker could lose their license. So, they just don't understand. You cannot make a decision for the seller what they will take or not take. If the seller says, look, I know I got my property listed at 299,000. Don't bring me anything less than 280. You get an offer at 250. You have to present the offer. That's the law. That is the law. You have to present any and all offers. It doesn't matter if the offer is really low. You have to present any and all offers. That's the law. Now, okay. All right, let's go on to there's other contracts must be in writing, like employment agreements between the sponsoring broker and the licensee. Let's go on to bilateral and unilateral contracts. I want you to highlight, put an X by both of these. Now, a bilateral. Now, the word bi and bilateral doesn't mean 2 parties to a contract. Every contract has at least 2 parties. The word bi is you have a promise for a promise. And the promises are mirror images of each other. That's a bilateral contract. Here, I'll give you an example. Let me give you an example. Now, I have an offer on your property. My offer is $290,000. You give me a counter offer of $300,000. We have no contract here. We have no contract. Now, I give you an offer of $295,000, and you accept the $295,000. Now we have a bilateral contract. It's a promise for a promise. I promise to pay you $295,000 for your property. You promise to sell it to me for $295,000. We have a promise for a promise. The promises are mirror images of each other. That's an example of a bilateral contract. This one right here. This is a bilateral. Promise for a promise, and the promises are mirror images of each other. Now, a unilateral contract, which I ask you to put X by as well. A unilateral contract is a one-sided agreement. One party makes a promise to induce a second party to do something. The second party doesn't have to act, but if they do, then the second party must comply with the agreement. An example, let me give you an example. If I said to you, I will pay you $1,000 to paint my office here. Now, you don't have to paint my office, but if you do, I now have to pay you. So I'm trying to get you to act on something. A unilateral contract, they used to have these out in the Old West too. You know, wanted, $10,000 reward, dead or alive, for the person that robbed the bank and shot the sheriff. Now, you don't have to bring that person in. But if you do, now the town marshal has to pay you the reward. It's trying to get someone to act on something. Got a question. Can the seller or the buyer state that any response has to be accepted by a specific time? After that time, the contract is not valid. Yes, absolutely they could. I present this offer now. You have until midnight tonight to make your decision. Otherwise, it's void. Yes, yes, you can. Now, you're welcome. Now, let's skip down to executed and executory contracts. You got to highlight, put X by both of these. Let me talk about the second bullet, the executory contract. Now, an executory contract, that's where something needs to be done by either one or both of the parties. Now, I signed a contract. Now, I'm talking about executory contract. I signed a contract to buy your home. You signed a contract to sell me your home. As soon as we both signed it, we are both in the executory stage. There's something that has to be done. Me as a buyer, I need to go out and apply for the loan for the property. You as a seller, you need to contact your attorney. They have to start ordering the payoff letters, ordering title. So something needs to be done in the executory stage of the contract. Now, an executed contract, an example of that is we get to the closing and you get the money and I get the keys, the deed, and the title to the property. So executed means it's a done deal. It's over with. It's done. Something has to be done in executory by one or both of the parties. Executed, it's a done deal. We're already finished. I have possession of the property. You have possession of the money. We each go our own separate ways. Now, essential elements of a valid contract. So these things must be included in a contract. Offer and acceptance. I want you to highlight, put an X by it. It's also called mutual assent, also called meeting of the minds. We have to have an agreement, offer and acceptance. I promise to pay you a lot of money for your property. No, we have to be exact. We have to be definite. The next paragraph, put X by. In Illinois, the offer and acceptance must be in writing. Verbal means nothing in real estate. The next paragraph, put an X by that paragraph. An offer is a promise made by one party requesting something in exchange for that promise. The offer is made with the intention that the offers be bound to the terms if the offer is accepted. The terms must be definite, specific, and must be communicated to the offeree. You can't be vague about it. I'm going to buy your property located over on Tui and Western. No, which corner? There's 4 corners. We have to be exact. We have to be definite. I'm going to pay you a bunch of money for your property. No, what? How much? How much are you going to be paying? Now, the next paragraph, the first couple lines, put an X by it. Proposing any deviation from the terms of the offer constitutes a rejection of the original offer, and we have no offer unless I agree to the changes. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Okay. You listed your home with a real estate agent. You're the seller, you listed your home. You have your home listed right now at $300,000. Now, you told your agent you're kind of in trouble right now, and you're going through a divorce or a foreclosure or bankruptcy, and you're really willing to take, if you get 270,000, you're willing to take that amount. That's what you told your agent. Now, I'm a buyer. I have no idea what you told your agent, that you're willing to take a much lesser amount. I have no idea about that. I just know you're asking 300,000. So I came by to see your property, and you happen to be home as I'm walking through the property. And as I walked through the property, I started criticizing everything about your home. I go, oh my God, this furniture this guy has in his home. Where did he get this thing? I think some guy threw it out in a dumpster and he dragged this stuff into his home. It looks awful. Look at these walls and ceilings in this house. Either this guy's painting in the middle of the night without any lights on, or he must be colorblind. Awful, awful paint job on this thing. Now, I really dislike your taste in decorating your home, but I love the home. I have an offer on your home. Here's my offer. I come in with an offer of $299,950, almost full price, $30,000 more than what you're willing to accept. But I hurt your feelings because I made fun of the way you decorated your home. So you decide to give me a counter offer. You give me a counter offer of $299,951. You just change it by $1. And I look at that and I says, you know what? First of all, you have no idea how to decorate a home, number one. Number two, I gave you a good offer. I don't understand what you're doing with this $1. You know what? Forget about it. I don't want to deal with you. I think you're going to be nothing but trouble. You go, hold on, Sam. Wait a minute. What you do is you cross out this offer of $299,951 and you change it back to $299,950. And you said, look, Sam, you signed a contract for $299,950. I know I changed it, but I'm going back to the $299,950. Question is, do we have a contract? Yes or no? Do we have a contract? Even though you went back to my original price that I agreed to buy it at $950. The answer is no. We have no offer. Even though I signed a contract for $299,950, since you changed it by $1, you nulled that contract. Even if you go back to my original price of $299,950, any change at all to a contract is a rejection of that contract. It could be a price change. It could be a date change. It could be something like, I'm going to remove the washer and dryer. It could be anything, any change to a contract. excuse me, no matter how small it is a rejection of that offer. We have no contract. Unless, of course, I agree. Can the counteroffer be higher? Sure it could. Sure it can. Just want you to understand that. That usually shows up. By the way, just to remind you, on the state exam, you're going to get probably about 14 questions on this chapter, on chapter 12. You get about 14 questions on chapter 12. Alberto, don't worry about the questions. I just want to make sure everyone understands anything that deals with the exam, any questions whatsoever that anyone has with the exam, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Anything that's going to clarify anything I'm talking about, that's why I'm here. I'm here to make sure that you're clear. So, and just to let you know, don't be afraid that you're asking a question that because you don't understand. Don't worry about that. You might not be the only one, and you might be helping other students. So don't ever be afraid to ask questions. I think one of the dumbest things anyone could do is when they don't understand and they're not asking questions, and then they're not following or getting the material right. So let's see. The next little paragraph. Any offer or counteroffer may be withdrawn at any time before it's accepted, even if the person making the offer or counteroffer agree to keep the offer open for a set period. Let me explain that one, and maybe you should put X by that as well. Let's say I stopped by your home this morning. I was at your house at 8 o'clock this morning. You're selling your home. I have an offer on your property, so I brought the contract over to your home. You review the contract, and you go, you know what, Sam? I like this contract. It looks really, really good, but I really got to spend some time to review it. I need a few days, maybe a week. Is that okay if I call you next week, by next Wednesday? I said, that's fine. I have no problem. I'm going to leave the contract with you. And I left your home. As soon as I left your home, you reviewed it very quickly, and you accepted the contract. You signed the contract. You accepted my offer. In fact, maybe, not that you need them, maybe you had a dozen witnesses that saw you accept the contract. But I don't hear from you. I don't hear from you. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I get tired of waiting. I call you up Tuesday night. I'm going to withdraw my offer. You say, hold on, Sam, wait a minute. I accepted the offer. I already accepted the offer. I accepted it actually last Wednesday. Question to you. Do we have a contract? Yes or no? You accepted the offer. You even got witnesses that you accepted the offer. Do we have a contract? Yes or no? Give you a few moments. So I repeat the question while people are filling it in. I presented an offer to you, a written offer. You said you needed some time to review it. You get back to me in a few days. I said a week or so. I said, that's fine. No hurry. I'm in no hurry. And but you accepted the offer as soon as I left. But you didn't say anything to me. I didn't hear from you. I don't hear from you for 3, 4, 5 days. I call you up. I ask you if I withdraw my offer. You go, wait a minute, Sam. I already accepted the offer. Question is, do we have an offer? Do we have a contract, I should say? The answer is no. Not only must you accept the offer, but you must communicate back to me, to my agent, to my attorney. We have no contract. You not only do you have to accept it, you have to communicate to me that you accepted the offer. I have a right to withdraw my offer anytime prior to you accepting and communicating back to me. You have to let me know, my lawyer, my agent, that you accepted it. Otherwise, I have a right to withdraw anytime. And some of you put down yes, and it's the wrong answer, but that's okay. That's how you're going to learn. You won't make this mistake. Okay. Let's skip down to a couple, there's real short paragraphs, but a couple of paragraphs. There's one in bold that starts off with an offer. It says an offer is not considered accepted until the person making the offer has been notified of the other party's acceptance. Got a question. Can it be communicated over the phone? It can be communicated over the phone. The best way to do is in writing, either through text, email, or something like that. That is the best way. Why? That's proof right there. That's your proof. Email's good for, it's forever. So it should be done in writing, because they could change their mind too until they sign the contract. Now, the next paragraph, that little paragraph, you can put X by. The licensee must transmit all offers, not good offers, all offers, good or bad, acceptances or other responses as soon as possible. And then besides being terminated by a counteroffer, it can be terminated by the rejection of the contract. Or, as someone asked before, can you put a time limit on it? Yeah, you can. That they accept it by this time. They don't accept it by this time, and it's considered expired. You have no contract. Again, the very last paragraph of this page. An offeror may revoke the offer any time before receiving the acceptance. So, and this should be going through the real estate licensee. Now, the next essential element of a contract, consideration. Highlight, put an X by that. Now, a contract must have consideration, something of legal value. Now, there are two types of consideration. There is good consideration and valuable consideration. Good consideration, well, love and affection is good consideration. Can't buy too many homes with love and affection. People want valuable consideration. Valuable consideration, money. Money is valuable. Let's see. Maybe the love and affection parents have for their children, they might sell their home at a discount to their children, maybe. But what people want between each other, they want valuable consideration. They want money. Now, the next two paragraphs down where it says reality of consent, I'd like you to highlight, put an X by it. I want to read this paragraph to you. Under the doctrine of reality of consent, a contract must be entered into the free and voluntary act of each party. Each party must be able to make a prudent, knowledgeable decision without undue influence. A mistake, misrepresentation, fraud, undue influence, or duress deprives that person of that ability. If any of these circumstances are present, the contract is voidable by the injured party. So let me give you an example. I sold you a big plot of land. I told you it's zoned for commercial, but you found out it's not zoned for commercial. It's only zoned for residential. And but you are not going to build commercial on there. You want to build residential. You got a good deal on it. It is voidable by you because you were lied to, but you got such a good deal, you decide not to, just to go ahead with the contract. Same thing if I told you I'm selling you a piece of property and it has 100,000 square feet, and you find out it only has 90,000. Well, I lied to you. You could go in and you could say, hey, I want to cancel this contract. But even if it's only 90,000, it's enough for you to do what you need to do with it. And you say that you still got a good deal, even at it's only 90,000. So you decide to go ahead with it. Who could cancel this will be the injured party, which I'm going to be talking about too. Now, the next paragraph, highlight, put X by that one. It must be for some legal purpose, for some legal reason. A contract that's made to do something illegal cannot be enforced. It's illegal to do so. Let's say, for example, you and I enter into a contract. I hired you to go out and kill somebody, and you don't kill that person. Can I take you to court and force you to kill that person? No, it's against the law. It's an unenforceable contract because it's you have to have some legal reason. Legally competent parties. The people that enter into a contract must have the capacity to enter into a contract. Anyone that's mentally challenged doesn't have the capacity to enter into a contract. A minor doesn't have the capacity. Now, a minor could buy property. Now, in the state of Illinois, a minor does not reach their majority until they turn 18. Any contract entered into by minor could be canceled up to the point that minor turns 18. Even a short period after their 18th birthday, they still have a right to cancel the contract. So you sell your home to a 15-year-old, they can live there for 3 years, over 3 years, and then they say, hey, I don't want the house anymore. I want my money. You have to give them their money back. A minor does not have the capacity to enter into a contract. Anyone that's under the influence of drugs or alcohol doesn't have the capacity to enter into a contract. Now, validity of a contract. A contract can be described as valid, void, voidable, or unenforceable depending on the circumstances. Now, highlight put an X by these first 3 bullets. The first bullet, a contract is valid when it has all the essential elements of a requirement of a contract, which means it's a good contract. It's a contract that will stand up in court. The second bullet, a void contract is a contract you're missing one or more of the essential elements of a contract, which means you have no contract. Now, a voidable contract, a lot of people get mixed up on this. A voidable contract is a valid contract, but it's a contract that can be rescinded or revoked, but only by the injured party. Let me give you an example of a voidable contract. Let's say there's a 15-year-old kid, a multimillionaire. I told him I got 10 acres of land. It's right in the middle of the desert somewhere in Arizona, and this land is like 20 miles away from any roads, electricity, water. There's nothing out there. But I told him the land is very valuable, and I sold this 10 acres of land to this 15-year-old for $1 million. So this kid goes out there one day. Maybe his chauffeur drives him out to the land, and the kid's playing in the sand in the middle of the desert. And then all of a sudden, I didn't know it was there, but this kid discovered that there's gold on this land. I didn't know. There's $20 million worth of gold. And as soon as I find out, I go to court to cancel the contract because I sold the property to a minor. Can I do that? I'm asking you, can I do that? Again, I sold 10 acres of land to a minor, a 15-year-old, and he's out there. I sold it to him for $1 million. Found out that he discovered $20 million worth of gold. As soon as I find out, I go back to the courts. I want to cancel the contract and, restore the property to me. Can I do that? Yes or no? The answer is no. You know why? I'm not the injured party. The minor could cancel the contract, but I cannot cancel it. The minor's the injured party. Why? They don't have the capacity to enter into a contract. By the way, just to let you know, because the question came up, a minor could buy property. Of course, they could cancel it up to the time they turn 18 or even after their 18th birthday. But a minor cannot sell property. A minor cannot sell property. So this contract, it's voidable only by the minor, because the minor is the injured party. The one that was misrepresented, the minor, they were lied to or something like that. So those are the kind of questions that you will see. Now, a contract is considered voidable. There's the next couple bullets underneath there. If it was entered under duress. Duress is this. Let me give you an example of duress. Let's say that your parents died all of a sudden in a plane crash, and they left you this big house. I show up at the funeral to make sure that, to pay my respects, but I walk in there with a listen agreement, and I tell you, look, I'm sorry you lost your parents, but they left you this big house, and you can't deal with this big house. I brought a listing agreement here. Why don't you sign it? Let me sell this house you could get from under it. And you sign this contract. The problem is you signed under duress. You just lost your parents. You could go to court and void this contract. It's voidable because you were not in the right frame of mind. I took advantage of a bad situation. That's duress. Or if you get your neighbor drunk, you can't, he sells the property to you for 50,000, and they got a couple other ones. You could go over those on the top of the next page. Now, that there's a fourth bullet from the top, highlight, put an X by it. A contract is unenforceable when it cannot be completed by operation of law or for some other reason. Now, let me give you an example of an unenforceable contract. You and I enter into a contract. I agree to sell you my home. We have a signed contract. A day before we closed on the property, I had a fire at my house and my home burned down to the ground. I can't make you buy the home anymore because it doesn't exist. It's unenforceable, cannot be completed by law or other reason. Let me give you another example of an unenforceable contract. You and I enter into a contract, a sales contract. I agree to sell to you Navy Pier. So we have a signed sales contract. We get to the closing, somehow you got the money, get to the closing, guess what I cannot give you? The title to Navy Pier. I don't own it. It's unenforceable, cannot be completed. So just be a little bit familiar with those examples, unenforceable contract. Now, here again, Illinois law provides that all persons come of legal age on their 18th birthday. Any contract entered into by a minor are voidable until the minor reaches their majority, which is 18, or within there's a period after their 18th birthday. Not on just because you turn 18 doesn't mean you just matured all of a sudden. So it could be for a little while afterwards. Let's see. Oh, or if a minor has been emancipated by the courts, then they're considered in their majority and they could sign a contract. Multiple offers. Now, we're running into the situation right now where we're getting multiple offers. We're getting several offers on a property. It's not unusual if the property's priced right to get 3, 4, 5, 6 offers on a property. Now, these are all important. I just added these in very recently. When representing a buyer, seller, landlord, tenant, or other clients of an agent, they must promote the best interest of their client. You have that fiduciary duties to them. Presenting the multiple offers and negotiations are often complex. I do a class on presenting multiple offers. It says here, remember that the decision on when the multiple offers are presented and how they will be negotiated and which offer, if any, will be accepted or countered is made by the seller, not the buyer agent or the listing agent. The listing agent, when presenting multiple offers, should always explain the pluses and minuses of all the terms and prices, and the decision is the seller's. let me give you a brief idea. If you get involved in multiple offers on a property, where I'm saying you get 4 or 5 offers, let me tell you how to proceed on this. I always make sure I cover this with my agents in my office. So, multiple offers. Where's my pen? Nope. There we go. All right. What I do when we have multiple offers, I don't put them in any certain order. I put down all the terms. Like for example, I will put down. I put this down on a sheet on a legal pad. Offer number 1, offer number 2, offer number 3, 4, 5, and so forth. I do that. And then I go through all the terms. Oops, number 4 or number 5. Now, I will put down the price. I like to leave for last so they don't get distracted. Someone has a question. I don't see that yet. That's something new that we had to require by law. It's not in the 7th edition. I'll put that back up and you can take a screenshot of that if you want, Latricia. So I'll put that back up in a moment. You can take a screenshot. Now, what I do is I will say what the down payment is. You know, the offer number 1 has 5%, offer number 2 has 20%, offer number 3 is all cash, you know, and I put down all the terms, whatever it might be, 10%, 20% down, whatever it might be. Then I put down what type of financing. This is conventional. This is conventional. This is FHA, or this is cash. Sorry, this is FHA. This is VA, whatever it might be. I might put down the closing date, put on whatever date it is. If there's any credits at closing. So I do everything, and I have a long, long list till I get to the price. And then my job is not to determine price. My job is to make sure that the terms are reasonable, what the earnest money is. Can they get a conventional loan for 5% down? That's my job. Is it possible to close in 30 days? Not on a conventional loan. No, you need about 45, 50 days. So those are what I do. And I put this out and we go over one by one. That's how I present multiple offers. So, question. Okay, yeah, okay, I'm gonna put up that page that has the multiple offers. This is a new law that just came out in August. It went in effect in August, so I had to change things. So let me put that back up and you can get a copy of it. Starting up here, when representing buyer, seller, landlord, tenant. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs are short paragraphs. So go ahead and make a copy of that. How do you evaluate contingencies, like inspections, since the results are not known? Well, everyone should do an inspection on a property. That's pretty common. An attorney's review is a common contingency. Actually, we're going to talk about contingencies here. Now, a house sale contingency is not a good one. In order for me to buy your home, I need to sell and close on my existing home. That's not a good contingency to have. I don't know, you can have a contingency for almost anything. We are going to discuss contingencies. But basic contingencies, finance contingency, attorney's approval, home inspection, those are standard. That's fine. But selling my home or I will buy your property contingent upon the stock market reaching, I don't know, $35,000, 35,000 points or whatever it is, because then my stocks are doing well and I could afford to buy your property. That's a lousy contingency. But you have a contingency. There's hundreds of contingencies. I buy your home based on my mother-in-law inspecting and approving the property. Oh, well, we're not. Oh, you don't have the rest of this, the contemporaneous offer. Nope, that's new too. So let me move this up. I'm going to talk about that right now too. Okay, contemporaneous offers. Let me explain what that is. You can highlight put X by that as well. Now, I have two buyers interested in the same property. I could work with both buyers. Now, I can't tell the first buyer what the second buyer is offering. I can't tell the second buyer what the first buyer is offering. Remember, you got to keep that information to yourself. You cannot disclose that. That's what contemporaneous offers are. I can work with two people who want to buy the same property. So, buy the mansion when I win the lotto. Okay. You know, there's I read a lot of, I do a lot of reading and stuff like that. And I learn a lot from people. I learn a lot from reading. And if someone looks at a mansion, they look at that house and they says, you know what? I will never own that property. And guess what? They never will. I mean, your mind has a really strong, powerful sense to it, to what you accomplish. If you look at it, this mansion up there, and you say, you say to yourself, you say out loud, you know, one day I'm going to have a home just like that. And you know what? You will. You really will. Mine is very, very powerful. So. Okay, well, thank you, Calls, for saying the nice comments and stuff like that. You know, one thing I do, well, I'm old school, okay, so I read every single day, and you get a library card. Guess what? The books are free. Go in there and I get 3, 4 books at a time, start reading them. If I like the book, I might just go out and buy a book. But, just why, you don't know. Get confused. So, but just go out there and go to a library. It's free to get a card and free to get books. I do that all the time. So, and I learn a lot. I like these books that give you I don't know, they call them self-help or something like that, or positive PMA, positive mental attitude. That's what I like. I like to have those kind of books. I like to encourage them for my agents to read, and maybe I do have a list, and yeah, all audio's pretty good too. So, but I kind of like to feel the book, and I mean, I read all the time. I had to get a new phone today, and it takes a while to get all paperwork and everything done. I brought a book in there, and I was reading a book, standing up against the wall. I'm sitting there reading a book. That's what I do. Oh, listen while you drive. That's a good thing to do. I should do that. So, I should do. Well, here's what you should be listening to on audio. All of you have access to the audio of every single word in this book. Just to let you know. Okay. Oh, that's good. That's good. Now, performance of a contract. Many contracts call for a specific time where things have to be completely performed. Usually on the last page and the last paragraph and the last line of any contract says, time is of the essence. So whenever both the buyer and seller sign a contract, time is of the essence, then they have to take action to get things moving quickly. Just can't, well, I got plenty of time. I'm not gonna close in 45 days, so I don't have to worry about applying for a loan. No, you have to go and apply for a loan now. That's what you have to do. Highlight, put an X by this paragraph where it says assignment. I want you to know that this usually shows up on the state. An assignment is a substitution of one person in place of another. One person in place of another. Now, if I signed a contract to buy your home, and next to my name I put down and or assignees, I could take my name off of that and add someone else to it if I want. Substitution of one person for another is a assignment. Make sure you have an X by that. Highlight, put an X by the next paragraph. Novation. Nova in Latin means new. Novation means substitution of a new contract for an old contract. For example, I'm a developer. I'm building a bunch of homes. You decide to buy one of these homes from me. We're getting ready to close in a couple of days. Accidentally, one of my workers burned down your home, but you need a place to live right away. And I said, look, I'm sorry, the home that we're building for you got burned down. I got one very, very similar to the one that you want to buy. It's only a block away. And because of the inconvenience, I give it to you at a big discount. You decide to buy that second home. So we created a novation. We canceled the old contract and created a new contract. Remember, assignment, substitution of a new person in place of the old person. Assignment, substitution of an old contract in place of a new contract. Okay, assignment, substitution of a new person in place of an old person. I signed a contract to buy your home. I could put down and or assignees. I could take my name off and I could put someone else in my place. That sometimes happens. Okay. Now, breach of contract. A contract may be terminated if it's breached by one of the parties. A breach of contract is a violation of any of the terms or conditions of the contract without any legal excuse. Now, let's say the seller breaches the contract. I'm the seller. I changed my mind. I don't want to sell you this home. That first bullet, highlight, put an X by it. You could force me to sell you that property. It's called a suit for specific performance. You can force me to sell you that contract because we both signed a contract. I agreed to sell you the home. I changed my mind. I don't want to sell to you. You can force me to sell you that property. It's called a suit for specific performance. That's what will happen if I change my mind and decide not to sell you my home. Now, what if you, the buyer, change your mind? You decide you don't want to buy the property. Well, you could go over those bullets over there, but what I could do to you as a buyer, I can force you to buy that property, which is essentially the same thing as a suit for specific performance, or I could keep the earnest money that you put up. I can't do both. Either I force you to buy the property, suit for specific performance, or I keep the earnest money. I could do one or the other. I cannot do both. Now, other reasons for termination, they have them up here. You could just go over it. Nothing tricky about those. You could go over those on your own. Now, contracts used in a real estate business. Now what they accept, we used to always use hard copies. I still do that. A lot of agents do. But electronic contracts, electronic forms of contracts, electronic signatures are acceptable. Before it used to be blue ink, original copy. When I got into business, guess what? When I started the business, there was no computers. There were no computers at all. We used to have contracts. They were 4 pages long, and so everyone gets a copy. When we write up a contract, we had to put pieces of what's called carbon paper, which maybe young people will never know what carbon paper is, but it's like a piece of paper that has ink on one side, and when you press down on one, it goes through all 4 copies. And we have to tell our clients, press hard, because you have 4 copies of that. That thing had to go through. We didn't have faxes when I started. Whenever we signed a contract, I had to drive the contract to the lawyer's office. There was no faxes. Then we did get faxes. I remember we got the first fax machine. They used paper on there. It was called thermal paper, and you could get a copy of it, but it would take maybe a couple weeks that copy would turn all black and you would have nothing left on it. was really weird what we used. And plus it took, then we have copier machines. I remember when they came by, still before computers and all that. But it used to take a minute to make one copy. You put a copy in there, it'd take you a whole minute. And you had to use special paper, and the paper had a little mark on it, and it had to be facing up, otherwise it will not copy on regular paper. I was just probably got in just ahead of all the other agents. They use a feather and an inkwell to write up contracts. That's about when I got it. So I think I know some agents that wound up, I don't know, probably chiseled a contract on a rock. So electronic signatures are acceptable, e-signatures, DocuSign, all that is acceptable today. So they got a lot of information. You could go over that. Don't spend a lot of time, but that is accepted today. Now, okay, there are two court cases that you need to be familiar with. Two of them. One of them is going to be in chapter 14 regarding discrimination. Now, this one, Quillen and Tyson. I want you to highlight, put an X by it. You will see this one. You're going to see both of them, these two court cases. Now, Quillen and Tyson is a Illinois Supreme Court case filed by Chicago Bar Association versus Quillen and Tyson. Quillen and Tyson was a big real estate company up in the North Shore of Chicago and back in the 60s and 70s. And what they used to do, those agents, they used to draft their own contracts. They used to make up their own contracts. Well, they can't do that because they're practicing law. Only a lawyer could draft a contract. Only thing we're allowed to do is fill in the blanks in a pre-printed contract or cross out what doesn't apply. So what you need to know, the one court case, Chicago Bar Association versus Quillen and Tyson. What it states, highlight, put an X by the next three bullets. Licensees can only use standard pre-printed or digital form contracts that's used in the area they do business in. Second bullet, licensees are authorized only to fill in the blanks of a pre-printed or digital form contract. And if there's no information, they insert NA, not applicable. And then the third bullet, licensees are authorized only to line out wording which is not applicable on a pre-printed or digital contract. Now, 2 paragraphs down, highlight, put X by that one. All insertions and deletions must be at the direction of the principal. Whatever we put in a contract, we have to follow the instructions of our principal, meaning the buyer or the seller. And whenever anybody signs any documents at all, state law says they must get a copy of what they signed within 24 hours. Make sure you know that too. Now, okay, on top of this next page here, states that, and you can highlight this, real estate sales contracts contain a complete agreement between the buyer of a parcel of real estate and the seller. Depending on the area, they have different names for them. They call this offer to purchase, contract to purchase and sale, purchase agreement, earnest money agreement, deposit receipt, sales contract. They use many different names. Now, the second paragraph, highlight, put an X by it. Make sure you know this. This is on the state exam. In Illinois, a licensee should only use, well, they should not use forms titled offer to purchase or intent to purchase if it's to become a binding real estate contract. We can only use forms that state in big bold letters at the very top, real estate sales contract. We cannot deceive the public. We cannot bring this up to a buyer and says, oh, look, only says offer to purchase, only says intent to purchase. Well, if I have my buyer sign a offer to purchase and the seller accepts it and my buyer just bought a property, well, that is a real estate sales contract and it must state so in big bold letters on the top. That's only what we're allowed to use. Real estate sales contract, nothing else. Now, parts of a sales contract, you can go over all these bullets on your own. Nothing tricky or special about them. And then we have additional provisions, this next page, and you can go over that on your own as well. Now, earnest money deposits. Now, earnest money, earnest money shows that the buyer's sincere about buying a property and they have the financial ability to purchase a property. Earnest money is not a requirement in Illinois, but I don't know anyone that's going to take their property off the market without any earnest money. Let me give you an example. You're a seller, you're selling your property. And I got 3 offers on your property. And let's say the price, the closing date, pretty much the same day. Offer number 1. Offer number 1 has earnest money of 0. Why? Because earnest money is not a requirement. Offer number 2 has earnest money of $1,000, which a lot of agents come up with that. I don't understand that, but a lot of agents do. Offer number 3 has earnest money of $25,000. Now you're selling your home. As a seller, say the prices are about the same. Which one of these do you think you want to work with? The one with 25,000. This guy's a lot more serious about buying your property. And this is what I had to get into people's minds sometimes. You're serious about buying this property. I need a big earnest money check. I used to buy a lot of properties. I used to buy foreclosures. I used to buy, REOs, bank real estate owned by banks and stuff like that. I want to show them I'm very serious. I used to come up with big earnest money checks. Waving a $25,000 check or $50,000 check in front of the seller's face, I'm telling you, that's going to get their attention. Can that buyer lose that earnest money? Sure they can. If they change their mind about buying a property, they can lose the money. But what if the property doesn't appraise out? They get the earnest money back. What if the house burns down? They get the earnest money back. What if the buyer has horrible credit and they get turned down for the loan? They get their earnest money back. What if they lost their job? Now they don't qualify for a loan. They get the earnest money back. Well, if interest rates went crazy and they jumped up, they more than doubled or tripled, they get the earnest money back. Can the buyer lose their earnest money? Yes, if they change their mind. So again, earnest money is not a requirement. Earnest money shows that they're sincere about buying a property and they have the financial ability to purchase that property. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about escrow accounts right now. I am going to cover this in much greater detail when we do get into chapter 6. Not that you handle these escrow accounts, your sponsoring broker does, but you need to be aware of them. So, escrow accounts. Each sponsoring broker who utilizes a escrow account to hold earnest money deposit. Those bullets I would highlight, even put an X by, but I'm going to go over these. They're going to be repeated again in chapter 16. They must maintain a complete journal and ledger for all earnest money transactions and a log of all escrow accounts. Who maintains all of these bullets right here is your sponsoring broker. But do you need to be aware of it? Yes, because it's going to be on the exam. Second bullet, notify IDFPR. These are the people that license us of where the money is held. All earnest money must be deposited in a federally insured institution. The next bullet, all funds must be deposited in an escrow account no later than the end of the next business day following the acceptance of the lease or contract. Next bullet, both the account itself and sponsoring broker records are subject to inspection at any time. IDFPR to walk into any real estate office anytime they want without any notice, and they have a right to look at all the records for at least 2 years. Now, the next bullet, sponsoring broker records need to produce within 24 hours. If IDFPR calls any real estate office, I'm going to be there in 24 hours. They have to have 5 years worth of records on hand. 2 years without any notice, 5 years with a 24-hour notice. All bank statements must be reconciled within 10 days of receiving a bank statement. And again, as I mentioned, all escrow records, but all records, not just escrow, all records must be kept for at least 5 years. So only the sponsoring broker authorization may withdraw funds from the account for the closing. Commingling, I mentioned that. Commingling and conversion, I already mentioned that, or mention it again. Commingling, the number one reason why in the state of Illinois sponsoring broker loses their license is called mixing. Mixing escrow funds with the broker's personal or business funds is commingling. And conversion is stealing, basically, taking money that belongs to somebody else. Now, equitable title. You got highlight, put an X by that paragraph. Equitable title is right to receive title. Right to receive title. Now, if I sign a contract to buy your home and you sign a contract to sell me your home, as soon as that contract's signed by both of us, I don't have title to your property. I don't get title till we close. What I do have is equitable title, right to receive title, which allows me to take that sales contract that we both signed, walk into a bank and apply for a loan on a piece of property I don't even own yet. Equitable title, right to receive title. Contingencies. Contingencies, as I said, very common to have contingencies on contracts. A contingency, you highlight, put a X by it, highlight, put X by number 1, 2, and 3, and highlight, put an X by the 3 bullets underneath. A contingency is a happening of a certain event. It doesn't happen, you don't have to buy that property. I will buy your property contingent upon the home passing the inspection. I buy your property contingent upon me securing a mortgage at an interest rate not to exceed 3% amortized over 30 years with no points. Or buy your home contingent upon me selling and closing my existing home. As I say, you have a contingency. There are hundreds of contingencies out there, hundreds of them. So, and it doesn't happen, they don't have to buy the property. They have to give them proper notice. They're not meeting their contingency. Now, the last 2 paragraphs, amendments and addendums. You got to highlight both of them. Occasionally, you're going to see them. An amendment is a change to the contract, which becomes part of the contract. An addendum is something that's added to the contract, which becomes part of the contract. Now, an amendment, which is a change, or addendum, which is a addition, they had to be acknowledged or approved by both parties to the contract, by all parties to the contract. Let's talk about options right now. Those 3 paragraphs on options, I like you to put an X by all 3 of them and talk about those. A option is a contract which the optionor, who's the owner, gives the optionee, the prospective purchaser, the right to buy or lease a property at a fixed price within a certain period of time. Options are very, very common when it comes to investing in commercial property. Let's say you have a commercial building for sale. I want to buy your building, but what I want to do with that building of yours is I want to convert that to a nightclub. And in order for me to convert that to a nightclub, I need to get the zoning changed. I had to make sure I could get my liquor permits on a property. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to take this property off the market for 3 months. I need 3 months to find out if I can get the zoning change and my liquor permits on it. So I'm going to ask you to take that property off the market. Don't sell to anybody in the next 90 days. I might and I might not buy it. I don't know if I could get my things in order, my permits and all that. I'm asking you if you would do that for me. You probably will not. Probably will not. But tell you what, I really like the building. I like the space, the location, the parking, everything about it. I want to turn this into a nightclub. In order to do so, I need to get the zoning change. I need to get liquor permits. So I'm going to ask you to take this property off the market for the next 90 days. Don't sell to anybody. If you agree to this, I will give you right now a cashier's check for $30,000 for your inconvenience. That's your money. You cash that right away. Now, if I decide to buy it within 90 days, you have to sell to me. In the meantime, you can't sell to anybody else. And then I would ask you, will you consider doing something like that? Most people will. We'll negotiate that. Why? Because I don't want to spend $1 million to buy your building, and I find out I can't get my permits in there, and I can't build what I want to build over there. Sometimes someone wants to get the zoning change to build a shopping center where, land is zoned for residential, whatever it might be. Options are very, very, very common, especially in commercial. When I used to back in, well, it wasn't that long ago, about 2011, 2012, when the market was really, really down. I worked for a huge company. It was a investment company. They used to buy apartment buildings, and they would buy buildings anywhere from, I would say, 200 units was the smallest building they bought. The biggest one wound up going over 2,000 units, over 2,000 units. And my job was to go on and inspect each and every single apartment. And I only have a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to do this in. It's called due diligence. It's something I can't do on my own. I would have to bring in a whole crew of people because we had to check every outlet, write down the condition of the flooring or the carpeting, the appliances that are included with it, and it would take weeks to do that. I had a whole crew of people, and they used to pay me pretty well too. Not only pay my crew, they paid for hotel, airfare, car rentals, meals they paid for, and sometimes some jobs would take, would cost $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for that. I remember we did a one in 2012 in near Indianapolis. It's called Marion County. I believe it was called Marion County. So what happened? It was 2,000 apartments that we had to inspect, and they were going to buy the building. Then they found out that Marion County was going to quadruple the property taxes. Like, say, for example, if they were $1 million, they went up to $4 million. And guess what? After they paid me and after they paid the lawyers, probably over 100,000 invested, they decided not to buy the building. And this is just the cost of doing business. But I was going to everywhere, Alabama, Ohio, Texas, and was looking at these buildings for this company. So that's just an option, and it's just cost of doing business. It's a question. Can the seller keep the 30,000 if they cannot get the required permit? Yeah, they can. The 30,000 is keep the property off the market. None of that, and if I decide to buy it, none of that 30,000 has anything to do with the purchase price. That is completely separate. No, you keep the 30,000 for taking it off the market. So if you can't get the licenses, he can or he cannot. That 30,000 belongs to that owner of the property. Do you have to apply for a loan before you make an offer on a property? No, that's not what it's done. That's not the way it's done. You can't apply for the loan unless you have a contract, because you need equitable title. You don't apply for the loan until you get a sales contract with an agreed sales price. So now let's go on to land contracts. I want you to highlight, put an X by this paragraph. Now, this is called a land contract, also called installment contract, owner financing, seller financing. There's many different names, about 20 other names, articles of agreement, purchase money mortgage. It has so many different names on it. And what this happens with commercial. In fact, let me take a moment to explain this to you. So I'm talking about a land contract. Oh, I put down the wrong ink. It's colors or something. I don't know what I did. Okay, it's called the land contract, also called installment contract. It's called owner financing. Also called seller's financing, as I said, about 20 other different names. Now, the only way this could ever happen is that the owner owns his property free and clear, meaning there's no mortgage on this. There's no bank involved. The owner's going to finance this property themselves. Now, in a land contract, installment contract, what happens? Um, there are benefits to a buyer and there are benefits to a seller. So let me talk about the benefits to the buyer first, and then I'll go to the benefits of the seller. Again, the only way this can happen, the owner must own the property free and clear. They have no mortgage on it. The owner is going to act as the bank on this. So, one benefit to the buyer, lower down payment. See, when anyone buys any type of investment property, usually the down payment minimum is going to be 25%, but probably closer to 30% down payment. But if I'm going to finance this myself, I might do it for 15% down. You're not going to get commercial at 15%, lower down payment. Next thing is another benefit to the buyer, it's a lower interest rate. Usually when you buy any investment property, the interest rate right now, it's a little bit over 5%. I might do it for 4%. And I'm telling you, you can't get commercial rates at 4% today. Another benefit for the buyer has full control of the property, full control. You know what that means? They collect the rents, they pay the bills, they get the profits on the property. Another benefit, they get to write off depreciation. Depreciation is allowed by the IRS. You get to write a paper loss on a property. Another benefit, you don't have title to the property, you have equitable title, meaning right to receive title. And the buyer has full control of the property, meaning buyer takes possession of it. I'm sorry, I wrote down full control. Cross that. Buyer takes possession. Another benefit, let's say your credit's a little bit shaky, you the buyer are still with finances where a bank might turn you down. So those are the benefits to the buyer. You know what? Those are pretty good benefits. Let's talk about benefits to the seller. Probably one benefit is it could be a quicker sale. Oops. Quicker sale. Why? Because of lower down payment, lower interest rate will entice more people to buy this property. Another benefit to the seller, they might get full price for the property. See, if I had a cash buyer on this property, I might have to negotiate on the price. Or if I had someone to get financing from the bank, I might have to negotiate on the price. But since I'm taking a discount on the down payment, I'm going to finance this myself at a discount to the buyer. Well, guess what? Then you're going to pay me the full price for the property. Another benefit to me is that I could, well, I hold on to the title. I hold title to the property. You do not get the title. You have equitable title, but you don't get the actual title till the loan is paid off. Another benefit to me, The interest rate. I'm charging you a 4% interest rate. Where can I go and invest my money and get 4% guaranteed? There's nothing except for this. Another benefit to me, capital gain. Capital gain is a profit on my property, on the sale of the property. Now, if I sold this outright, I would have to pay a lot of capital gain. I still have to pay taxes on my profit, but my tax bite's going to be a lot smaller. Why? Because I only took a small down payment, only collecting so much money a month. So my tax bite's going to be a lot less. And then another benefit to the seller, if the buyer defaults, on the mortgage payments to me, because remember, there's no bank in there, they're paying me. The seller keeps the property and all money paid. You don't get a refund. You default on it, too bad. I have the title, you get out. We're done. That's the way it works. So that's what a land contract, installment contract, that's what that is. Want to be familiar with that, okay? I gave you all the things, and that is the end of this chapter. And let's go on to do the questions at the end of this chapter. Let's go. Oh, no, I forgot something. I'm sorry. Parole evidence rule. Parole evidence rule. Now, to explain this parole evidence rule, let's say I have a contract here. This contract, you and I signed this contract. What is ever in the four corners of our contract, this is our agreement. This is our agreement. Yes, Sam, see that paragraph there? I didn't mean that paragraph. I don't care. It's in there. It's part of the contract. Parole evidence rule. Now, don't get that mixed up with statute of frauds. Statute of frauds is anything that deals with real estate must be in writing to be enforceable. Parole evidence rule, whatever we have on our contract written, this is our agreement. This is it. Sam, I didn't read the contract before I signed it. You know what? Too bad. You should have read it. That's what the judge will say. So now that's the end of chapter 12.